I'm here today to inform you about how baseball has changed over the years. In the very beginning, Abner Doubleplay invented the game in his backyard in 1839 in New York. It started as a stick and ball game all over the country called goal ball, rounders, town ball. It had a lot of different names. I just picked their own name for it with a little bit of different rules. Alexander Cartwright and a group of friends played the official first game of baseball in New Jersey, and they had a couple rules. 9 players, bases 90 feet apart, consisted of 21 outs. Change after 3. The ball was pitched for the bat. They didn't pitch to get the person out. They wanted them to hit the ball. It was underhand. 3 misses and you were an out. The ball hit beyond the fence. You could only move up 1 base, and they didn't play for money or fame. Other teams around the area started to form, but it didn't spread very far at the time, and it was known as a gentleman's sport. It was played by white-collar workers like firemen, police officers, barkeeps, people like that, more upper class. When the Civil War started, it caused a huge spread of baseball because the soldiers were put with people from other places around the country, and then those soldiers would be put with different people, and it just spread that way. They would play it in between, just whenever they had free time. There was spontaneous games everywhere, and after the Civil War, all the soldiers brought the games back home, and this is how the game got the name the national pastime. By the turn of the century, baseball was a much more competitive game of all adult men. Farmers, soldiers, coal miners, and other blue-collared workers were the ones who were playing the game, so it wasn't as much as a gentleman's game as it used to be. Style of the game went from having fun and just passing time to winning at all costs. They would bend the rules and play tricks and verbally intimidate and insult the other people. Things like the bunt and a curveball, overhand pitching, that was all created at this time to enforce winning instead of just having a good time. This is what caused the sport to actually turn into a professional sport, and it caused the U.S. to have a very negative perception of professional sports because of this game, because they were doing tricks and not really being decent people at the time. And then W.A. Holbert and A.G. Spalding stepped in at this time to fix the game. It didn't work very well because the players didn't really care. They just wanted to win, so they didn't care how people saw them. So they didn't follow the rules that they was trying to change. And at this time, many teams didn't have any type of black player on the team. Blacks weren't really involved in the game at this time because of the white players would refuse to play with them, or teams would refuse to play against teams who had black players. So that was a big controversy at the time also. There was new rules included later on, and this became known as the dead ball era. New rules like overhand pitching to make the game a little bit harder. The ball was very dark and soft, that's why it was called dead ball. It was very hard to see and very hard to get a good hit off of it. They were dominated by pitching and getting outs, less scoring, not playing for fun or trying to throw to the batters so they could get a hit. It was more of how to get outs and how to win, how to strike them out. Stealing bases was included at this time, and there was many important players that came around at this time, like Ty Cobb, Cy Young, Walter Johnson, and a little bit later on Babe Ruth came. But for the most part, it was the other guys at this time. But if we fast forward to Babe Ruth, he was a very, very big hero to the American people and had the first known fan base of baseball. Also at this time, they believed that someone needed to be a ruler, a hearsay for baseball. They called him a commissioner, and the next big influence of the game was reintroducing blacks to the game, and Jackie Robinson was the first one to do this. From there to now, there wasn't many changes in the game. Obviously, there was a lot of controversy with civil rights and introducing them, but the rules of the game and how the game is played didn't really change much, so we all know what a modern baseball field looks like and the rules of the baseball, some of which being There's 9 players on the field. There's the 2 teams, 1 field, 1's at bat. 9 innings, both teams getting a turn in the field and at bat every inning. The 3 strikes, you're out. The 4 balls, you get a walk. 3 outs, and you switch. All the kinds of things like that. There are many other specialty rules for baseball, but there's just too many to go through. There's also a lot more safety precautions that are used today, such as helmets and the way they do things. For example, like calling the ball, that wasn't really around when earlier in the game. And that's how baseball went from a simple stick and ball game to America's game.